Well, welcome back to Harmonize Your Life Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast with your host, Dr. Toni G. Alvarado. I'm so delighted that you have joined us again for another intriguing conversation here on our podcast platform. You can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Google, on Spotify, Anchor. You can find us on the Light Internet Radio. You can also watch this podcast on YouTube, on my YouTube channel at Dr. Toni G. Alvarado. We are yet in the month of September. Yes, it is September. We're on our way out of the summer, not officially, summer officially ends or fall officially begins later this month, but we're in the month of September. And I don't know about you, but I can already feel the seasons changing. The weather's changing a little bit. The air is a little cooler. Leaves are falling in our yard and changing on the trees. And yeah, there's just a new feeling in the air. And I don't know about you, I feel it. I hope you're feeling it. And I know that this conversation today is going to be a blessing in your life as you tune in, as you listen, as you take notes. I want you to enjoy my podcast guest on today. I'll be back in just one moment with another conversation on self-care. Yes, so I'm super excited because the woman that I am having this conversation with today is really a woman that I've known pretty much all her life. I think I want to say she might have been maybe 4 or 5 years old when we met.
That was in at least kindergarten, I think. So that means
kindergarten, right? So many of you, if you follow me and you know my story, I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, and I have two very special women in my life who I've known since I was 9 years old. We started in the fourth grade. We met in the fourth grade, and we are still girlfriends today. I've been so blessed in my life to have women that span every season of my life. Girlfriends who I've known from childhood, from the earliest of my memory of friends, all the way up to now. I'm 58 years old, and some of these women that I've known all my life are still a part of my life. We may not talk every day. We may not talk every week. Certainly, many of them do not even live in Georgia where I live, but we're still connected in heart and mission, and we see one another or we talk to one another. Sometimes we may go for a while, and then when we do connect, it's like, girl, we just pick up right where we left off. And the young woman that I'm interviewing today or having this podcast conversation with today happens to be one of those young women. I'm older than her, but she is a little sister. She is a younger sister to one of my oldest and dearest friends, Felicia Mcbride, who you've heard from her on the podcast last year. She was one of our guests in October because she's a breast cancer survivor, and she's one of my sorors and best friends. And her younger sister, DeAnna Boyd, who I've known since she was a little girl. We used to walk to school together, and we would walk her to school and drop her off at her class, and then we get on to our classes. And to just see the woman that she has become today is just a joy to my heart. And to know that God has given me the privilege of being a big sister to her, talking with her in good times, bad times, walking with her through seasons of grief when they lost their father and their aunt, and even just being able to help and coach her and to help train her to be a coach, which is some of the things that she's doing today. She's taking my coach training course. And for those of you that would like to be trained, I got another course coming up in October. So go to my website and find out about how you can become a certified life coach through my coach training program. DeAnna is one of those who've gone through my coach training program. And now she's coaching women. She's done some other training since she's trained with me. And I'm just so excited to have DeAnna Boyd in the podcast studio today. Welcome, DeAnna.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And like I
I am
said,
so excited to
yes,
have you with
yes,
us. It's been a long time coming.
yes, yes. And
Yes.
it's been a walk, and I'm glad you mentioned and shared that you were the one that really got me on this path, working with you. And I remember the panic I had when you're like, "Well, Deanna," I'm like, "No, don't leave me." But you really equipped me so well to move forward with, me doing coaching now, working with women and really sharing my heart. So I thank you so much. And you said the good times and sad times, but we've all grown. We've
Yeah.
all grown.
It's all a part of life, right?
It is.
It's the circle of life.
It is, it truly is the circle of life. It
Mhm.
truly is.
It's the
Yeah.
circle of life. And I'm just so grateful that the Lord has kept our families connected all these years. Your mom has been like a mom. Your mom has been my mom. My mom was your mom.
Yes.
We grew up in communities. So, your mama was my mama. She could get on me just like my mama. My mama could get on you just like your
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah.
Before mom passed, Felicia and Janine came to Atlanta to spend time with mom in those last weeks of her life. And that meant so much to her. It meant so much to us, me and my sisters. And yeah, so our hearts are forever connected. Our lives are forever connected.
Forever connected. Yes. You are family. Yes.
Let me just share a little bit about DeAnna with you all because I want to formally introduce her. I've informally introduced her to you based on my relationship with her all these years. But I want to give you some biographical information that I think you need to know that will help you understand why our conversation, I chose her for this conversation, this podcast conversation today. So DeAnna Boyd is the founder and CEO of MiLoves Circle, a spiritual coaching company located in Maryland. And she completed her education in Inner Visions Institute for Spiritual Development, where her concentration was personal development. She furthered her education by completing the Spiritual Warrior program, as well as the Master Healing Ancestors Patterns program under the teachings of Ayana Van Zandt. Um, Mrs. Boyd or DeAnna has multiple years of experience in the field of personal development, offering services such as individual coaching, group coaching, and relationship coaching. She has a unique talent in taking clients through the healing process from childhood trauma to adult blockage through inner child coaching. I love that. And we're gonna delve into that a little bit today. When working with businesses, she offers individual team member coaching and leadership empathy coaching. I love that. Leadership empathy coaching. Um, she also offers a host of other services, including a variety of workshops for individuals, groups, and businesses. And so, one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is a particular workshop that DeAnna is offering through MiLoves Circle, and it is entitled "Hear My Mother's Cry." So, DeAnna, talk to us a little bit about what is this what you're doing with MiLoves Circle in general,
Okay.
and this particular workshop that you're doing right now, Hear My Mother's Cry.
Well, with my love circle, I've always, and I remember, and you talked about my aunt that transitioned when I was younger. I've always wanted to do coaching. I didn't know what the word was then, I was younger. And she said to me in the voice that she would speak, you don't need all those letters behind your name to help peoples. That's how she said peoples. And, and I held on to that. And I even mentioned that in our coaching session because I've always wanted to help women. That was always something I've wanted to do. I always had that empathy in my ear and, the safe space for people to come. And when my daughter was born, I said, I'm going to do something with her name, My Love. That's her middle name. And it's always been in my belly. And I said, okay, when I was in Intervisions, you had to step out and do something that made your tummy a little queasy.
Mhm.
And that was the queasy thing. So I said, I'm going to do it. And I've always believed, and especially with your coaching and Intervisions, that if you have a seed, a thought, that God placed it there. So
Mhm.
it's nothing other than success that is really going to happen when you water it, you give it a little sun, you give it some attention. And so that's how my love circle was born. And I was thinking circle because we like the circle of life,
Yeah.
friendship, the circle,
Yeah.
of tribes. So that's why my love
Yeah.
circle. And of course, I got to
Yeah.
do something for my son, so I got to get that plug in. Got to get a
And you're right,
little.
and you're right, and I love that because we're born, and then we go through early childhood, we go through adolescence, we
Mhm.
go through our teen or young adult years, our adult life, and then we're older,
Yeah.
and before long we become the ancestors.
Yes, we become the ancestors. Yeah.
I said to my mom just transitioned in May, and 2 weeks after mom passed, her oldest sister passed suddenly.
Mhm,
Auntie died,
mhm,
and their mom comes from a family of 16, and I can remember for years nobody in our family passed away.
mhm,
For years, it was always so many of us. And my uncle, one of my mother's brothers was here for my aunt Dot's funeral,
okay.
2 weeks after mom's funeral.
Mm,
And as we were standing outside of the church, as we were processing at the end of the service, I was walking my uncle. He's older now, he's moving slow, and he's got some health issues. And I just held my arm out to him so he could hold on to me. And as we were standing there, and as the family were coming out, and they were bringing out the flowers, and my uncle, he said it under his breath, but I heard him. He said, "Wow, a family that we seemed so big at one time, and we're just getting smaller."
mm,
Something hit me when he said it, and it just kind of ooh. So we're watching now. My mom and where it was 16 of them, I think now it's five brothers, and half of them are gone. It's like eight of them left out of 16.
mhm,
And it may seem like a lot, but when you've had 16 to go down eight from 16 to eight within a matter of a couple of years, it
yes,
seems like a lot. And
yes,
so
yes.
I said to myself, me and my sisters, that generation is passing away. And now we're becoming the elders of
Mhm,
our family.
yeah.
And before long, we'll be the ancestors. We'll be joining that great cloud of witnesses
Mhm,
that are cheering on our seed and our legacy, our children and grandchildren in
right,
their ways of faith.
right.
And so it is, we're not going to live forever.
We're not going to live forever. It wasn't part of the contract.
No,
It
it
wasn't.
wasn't. It wasn't. And so, yeah, so you're doing this wonderful work with My Love Circle,
Yes.
but you're particularly doing a workshop that I want us to talk about
Oh,
today. You're doing this work with Hear my mother's cry. What is that about?
Hear
Hear
my
our
mother
mother's
cry.
cry.
Yeah, hear our mother's cry is another something that was in the belly, and it was right before the pandemic. I had found the venue, the who I was going to invite, and I had started working out the information as far as the curriculum, and then COVID, and I was like, okay, well, there's that, and I put it on the shelf, but something kept again in my belly. Spirit's like, you've got to do this. Hear our mother's cry. It's really about what did our parents go through? What did our mothers go through? And what did we really marinate in? And what is really not our trauma, and we talked about it, ancestral trauma. How much of that is really in our DNA? And now that we've had to sit at home with ourselves, really sit in that space, and people struggle being by themselves,
Yeah.
being with their own thoughts. What is that really from? So again, I sometimes I talk to spirit like back and forth, like, I don't know if people are ready for but it's so powerful.
Yeah.
Even in my own walk with my son, I had some miscarriages. So I was nervous with him when he was in my womb, when he was in my belly, and I was concerned. And when he was born, it was a difference in our relationship. And I see it, and I've apologized for it. And that's something else as mothers, once you become aware of something. But and I'm saying that to say what he marinated in as a
Mhm.
young man, and he was born, and there was sort of this disconnect, this, maybe not always being, he didn't want to be a bother to me. But that was my stuff that,
Okay.
I wasn't sure if he was going to make it past the first trimester, then the second trimester. And what in me was held from my mother, and possibly abandonment, that, I couldn't connect because I had some loss. So that here my mother's cry is really about letting our moms off the cross, letting them down, and seeing them for what they went through. Why do we don't talk about stuff. Don't don't air my dirty laundry out there, but
Right, right,
talk about what's going on in these four walls out this house.
right,
So
right.
we continue to keep it, in our home, and we continue to sit in
We
it.
bury it. Yeah.
Yes,
But
yes.
it's not going anywhere. It's
It's
still
not
there.
going anywhere. It's not. It's
Mhm.
still there, and it carries from generation to generation to generation. So I wanted to create, and I call it my flagship program, a program where women can come together and talk about those relationships. What are those hard points that we've had with our mother? And is it because we saw them a certain way, but we never saw them as humans? We never saw or even thought that maybe they had a struggle,
Mhm.
whether it's abuse, abandonment, financial, whatever it is. Did we ever sit down and say, let me hear your story?
You know, I'm just gonna step right here for a second. My bookshelf is behind me, and I meant to pull this book
Okay.
close to me. Um, when when I wanted to pull this in, and this particular book is Dr. Consuelo Ward. I want to recommend this. You may want to use it in your work, but it's on healing Black girl pain.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I went to a talk that she gave a few years ago, and she said something as she opened up um, her talk that I have used, and of course I give her credit, but she says our story begins with our mother's story,
Yeah. Yeah.
and she opened up her talk with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and that has stayed with me. So now I cannot tell my story without telling my mother's story
Yeah. Yeah.
and my grandmother's story. You know
And
what I'm
that's
saying?
what I wanted.
As much of the story that I can recover or know. And I think that, like, it's so important that we talk about it, because when I think about it, beyond my mother's mother, I don't know much of the story.
Mhm,
I
mhm,
don't know my great grandmother's story. I
mhm,
know my I know my mother's story. I know a little bit of my grandmother's story, but I don't know her mother's story.
mhm,
You
mhm.
get what I'm saying?
Yes, I
And
do. I
like, so
do.
when you say it's passed down
Passed down.
from generation to generation, and if we don't talk about what happened with
Mhm,
our mothers
mhm.
and give them room to be human.
Yeah.
Um, Last week I had on the show Dr. Shauna Leith. She's she teaches. She's an assistant professor at the University of Virginia, and she teaches on. She's done a lot of work with the whole strength motif among Black women, Black girls and Black women. And she said something interesting. She said that Black girls and Black women have not been given the space to be looked at as humans. So we're expected to be strong. We're expected to be able to take it. We're expected to be able to carry our community and everybody on our shoulder. And
Mhm.
she said what it really is a dehumanization
Yeah.
of Black women and girls. And so when you said we're not giving our mothers room to be human
Yeah.
and taking them off the cross,
Yes.
and how important is that?
Yeah.
How important is that?
It's so important. It's so important to have that relationship and know that even in ourselves, you didn't do anything wrong. You did the best you could. And they need to, as even children, they need to hear you did the best you could. And the tools that you had, you gave me everything that your heart could possibly give. Sometimes we just don't know certain things. And I talk about in the workshop, the luggage. All we've done is repackaged it in Gucci and Louis, you know, but it's the same tattered bags,
Mhm.
tied sheets, held over shoulder. It's the same luggage. It's the same struggle. It's just repackaged.
It's just repackaged.
It's just
Oh my
repackaged.
God.
Yeah, yeah,
Woo, that is so
yeah,
good.
yeah,
That is so
yeah.
good. They did the best. And if you're listening to this podcast, you are a mother, tell yourself, I've done the best I could.
Best I could
I
with
mean, with what I have to, I did. I loved you to the best that I could love you with what I had to work with. You know,
yeah.
let yourself off the hook, let your mother off the hook, let yourself and every other woman in your life
Right.
off the hook.
Off the hook, off the hook. Because
Yeah.
you said we are powerful and we are strong. And something I watched on TV last night, it's in Atlanta. It's about Black girls waterfalls or something.
Yeah.
And it was a show where they were looking for a home and a lady was at the waterfall and she just broke. I mean, our ancestors, the ancestral energy that's amongst us. And I was just thinking about that water hitting and watching it fall and it coming up so beautiful. How we can connect with so many things. But sometimes we can't connect with our own mother
Mhm.
because of something that was unspoken, something that wasn't addressed. You can talk to some people sometimes they haven't talked to their mother in months. And I'm like, what is that? What is that? We call it anger, but what is that hurt? What happened to that little girl that still hurt but didn't have the words to express themselves? And maybe based off what happened to your mother, she may be stuck at a point in her life. She doesn't have the words to communicate. So then the relationship is broken.
Mm.
And
You know, I started grief counseling before mom passed. And one of the things my grief counselor has said to me in every session that I've gone to with her, I think I've had like 4 sessions. I started actually before she, like the week before she passed,
Mhm.
and I've had like three sessions since that first one. And every time I've gone, she says to me, Toni, you she said you had a good relationship with your mother, but
Mhm.
there are a lot of women, men and women, who did not,
Mhm. Mhm.
whose relationship with their mother harmed them, their mother abused them, their mother abandoned them. So for them, the grief may be it may show up differently.
Mhm.
So my question to you, DeAnna, is what do you say to the woman that's listening to this podcast, or when they come to your workshop, hear our mothers cry? What do you say to those women or men?
That have had the good relationships, as you're saying?
The bad relationship,
Oh, the bad relationships.
where their mother was the
Mm,
one that injured them
I see
or
what you're
caused
saying.
the pain.
Who injured her? Who did something to her? Who maybe violated her? And she didn't have anyone to talk to, because I mentioned it earlier. She may be still stuck in that moment in time in
Mhm.
an adult body. That's why I do inner child work, to get under that, because sometimes as adults, we're just having temper tantrums because we never heal that. And people think, I should say some people, I used to think, if I keep it down, I'm good. I'm good. But something to trigger it, something to flare it up.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
energy doesn't go away, it just
Mhm.
changes. So I
Mhm.
say to those people, let's look at what happened to her and let's forgive her, because it is.
It
So
is, and you can't change
we
that.
can't change it. So
Mhm.
let's work on what effects it's still having on you today.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I tell
Okay. Okay. Wow.
you. Yeah.
Whew, woo, 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 woo. Okay, so your work focuses on relationships with our mothers, examining our mother's journey while we're carrying, while they were carrying us in their womb.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, why is that important to us now as grown women? I'm 58.
Mhm. Mhm.
What implications does that have for us in our 30s and our 40s, our 50s, 60s, 70s, even
How are we
80s if
showing
we're
up?
graced to live that long?
Yes, yes, and that's a blessing. How are we showing up? How are we showing up in work? What are our triggers? How did we raise our children? And I know you had an amazing relationship with your mom, but even the amazing relationships, what could have
What could have
what
been different?
you
Because
know what was
it wasn't perfect. I love my mom,
yeah.
and we had a good relationship,
Hmm.
but we also had some tense moments.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, she's human, I'm human.
Yeah, we're human. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it does affect us. It may affect us in something that we have said in our own to our own children that we heard up. I mean, excuse me, heard growing up, but it's not true.
Mhm. Yeah.
It affects us in, maybe not getting a promotion that just came to mind, and you're upset. Why? What about me? Well, I'm doing all this. Is that an adult or is that a child? What about when somebody over here got a newer dress than you and it was picture day and
Mhm.
then you felt bad and it's showing up at 40, 50,
Mm,
60
mm, mm,
because
mm,
you
mm,
didn't
mm, mm. I hear you.
have
The
the
connection.
the
You know,
connection.
I recently did a workshop on spiritual formation. We
Uh-huh.
just did a workshop last month on spiritual formation. And in my session, I talked about the 7 areas where the spirit wants to form us.
Mm.
And one of those areas was our emotional
Mhm.
life. And I said a lot of people don't think that the spirit wants to deal with your emotional life, but it does. And I said a lot of times the things that show up, like I'll use my context, church, right? So you are upset because somebody didn't call your name, or somebody else got appointed to a position in the church and you didn't, or whatever. And it's really not that issue.
It's not.
It's maybe I didn't get picked on the t-ball team, or I was always being overlooked in elementary school, or my mother seemed to favor my sister over me. And so what's happening is it's showing up here. But what we're really dealing with is that 10-year-old, 7-year-old, or 13-year-old that wasn't healed.
That wasn't healed.
That
Yeah.
and so it's important that we go back and look at that, those injuries in our childhood, or like I like what you said, you deal with that inner child healing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because it's so. And when I started when I was working on my Master of Divinity, when we started writing our story, we had to start with our earliest childhood memory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in my book, Run and Not Be Weary, I open up the book with my earliest childhood memory. And my earliest childhood memory is my father's funeral. I was 5 years old. That's my earliest childhood memory. Sitting on the front row of the church with my mom and my sisters at my father's funeral. I have no memories earlier than that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my first childhood memory. So imagine what that did for me growing up,
Right.
always fearing loss.
Yes. 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 Mm-hmm.
I couldn't stand to lose a sock.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I couldn't stand. So, when earlier in relationships, even early in my marriage,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I would be a little, not, I wouldn't say, I wasn't jealous, or I wasn't that kind of woman, but I was always, you know, nervous about losing.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to lose in this relationship?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that can still fall under abandonment. Yeah. Yeah.
But it wasn't until I started going to therapy and looking at that, when I discovered in coaching, I discovered many years ago that I had a fear of failure and a fear of rejection.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was a little girl, I'll never forget, a young girl looked at me, and because I was dark skinned, she started crying, and she pointed to her mother and said, "Oh, I'm scared of her. She's black."
I gotta take a breath on that. Okay. Wow. Wow.
And that tape played in my head for years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
not pretty.
Mm-hmm.
She's dark skinned. She's black.
Mm-hmm.
Black means she's ugly. I'm afraid of her. That
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. So if you don't get healed from that stuff, it shows up,
It
even
shows.
in ministry.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It shows
It shows.
up.
It shows up, and sometimes at the darnest times, it shows up, and we act on it. And like you said, it's not about that moment. It's about a moment that's still in that body, still, as you said, playing that tape. Yeah,
Mm.
that is so true.
Wow, wow, wow. You said you help women explore family pathologies in this workshop.
Yes,
Hear Our
yeah.
Mothers Cry. Um, how do we explore family pathologies? How do we do that?
We come together in the workshop, and we talk about uh, the history. And it was really cool. The soft launch I did with my family, and we had different generational. So we talked about the grandparents and how we saw them being older, how strict they were, and by the time the younger ones came, they were able to get away with whatever they wanted to. But healing that is tapping into your family, you know, understanding how Uncle Ike was, or Uncle Adele, or Aunt Flo, understanding their walk, and even where they may have worked, when they worked there, what was the climate like? Because what type of trauma are we going through right now?
Right, right.
That may be a pathology if we don't heal it for our great grandchildren.
Mhm.
So having those conversations, and even sitting still with meditation, if you meditate,
Mhm.
prayer really works.
Yeah, yeah, yes. Yes, it does.
Prayer is another, and I tell people, prayer is a tool, and God is with you every step of the way. And sometimes you he carries you, but he's always there, always. So that's part of the healing, asking for, what do you want me to know? What do you want me to see? What do you want me to ask? Because you may have a question that comes out your mouth and you be like, where did that come from? It came from God, to get the answer to the question that you really, your body yearns to understand. Am I making sense? Because
Yeah,
sometimes
you're
I
making a lot of
really
sense.
do, really do.
Girl, you're making a lot of sense. This is good. I can't
Yeah.
wait for the next workshop because I'm signing up.
Okay.
I'm signing up.
And it's going to be in
Wow.
October, so I'm
Yes.
excited.
And I'm gonna let you share about that so
Yeah.
we can get it out there
Yeah.
and put it out there in the self-care network because DeAnna is a member of my self-care network, y'all.
Yeah.
And we'll get it out there. Uh, so you also talk about in your workshop how do we release unconscious um, judgments about ourselves.
Hmm. Hmm.
You
Hmm.
talk about releasing that. So can you just? I don't want to. I want people to come to the workshop, so I don't want you
Okay.
to get too much
Okay.
here. I need folks to come because they can't get it all. You can't get it all in no 40-minute podcast conversation. Sign up for Deanna's workshop.
Yes, and
It's
you will
coming up
really
in October.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get the full deal. Go through her program.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but just a little teaser. Can you tell us a little bit about how we release unconscious judgments? Just a little bit.
There is a way that in the workshop, and which I teach on my one-on-one coaching, that there's a process that you can release energy from your body. It's like acupuncture.
Mm-hmm.
So we release that way. We release through, you can release through writing.
Right.
And there's a certain way that you can dispose of
Mm-hmm.
the writings after
Mm-hmm.
you have,
Mm-hmm.
again, it doesn't change, but
Got it all out. Mm-hmm.
got it out. Get
I've been through exercises like that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
get the heat off of it. And I tell people, you really got to get the heat off of it. Because if you get the heat off of it, you can have a carefrontation instead of a confrontation.
A
You know.
care presentation. I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh wow.
You can talk from the perspective of, you know, this made me feel, this is how I dealt with it, as opposed to blaming it on the other person once you become conscious of it. But there's different ways you can be conscious of, become conscious. And something that's a small nugget is, if there's something that a person says that's bad about themselves,
Mm-hmm.
there's that chatter in your voice, really write that out, pray about it, meditate about it, but investigate that word and where did it come from. And then you can become conscious of a larger picture. Like you said, at 5 years old, that was your first memory. My memory was trauma, um, when I was very young. But then that's something that, if you allow yourself to sit with it and know that you're safe
Mm-hmm.
in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you can deal with it, you can unravel it, you can investigate it, and you can release it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You have really helped us. So, this is a self care podcast and we deal with holistic living. Um, so, I see this as impacting our spiritual, our mental, emotional, physical, um, relational, financial, and even occupational health and wellness.
Mhm.
And so, what does this all How does this tie into self-care for you?
It ties into self-care because we tend to be, I was formerly my biggest bully,
Mm,
and once I released the judgments, shame of things I didn't have anything to do with, I was a kid, and guilt, I was able to enjoy me more. And financial, so much trauma is connected to finances. Was
you
it?
got to say it. It's the truth. I'm serious. It's the truth. And we don't deal with that as an aspect of self care, which is why I appreciate the training that I've had in this area
Mhm.
because financial wellness is important to our peace.
It's important to our peace. But if you've been told all your life, not told by words, but told by DNA, you can't have, you're
Mhm.
unworthy of. It's hard to really break through that if you
Mhm.
don't know where it came from.
Right, right, right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it
Wow.
helps all aspects because I believe we're perfect in God's eyes. And we have to believe that. And
Because we're made in the image of God,
we're made in the image of God.
and
But
God
we
is
got
not
choice.
broke.
Woo! Yes, 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 yes.
I'm made in the image of an almighty God. God is not broke. God is not depressed.
Right.
God ain't broke down. And I'm forever, and we talked about this in our spiritual formation workshop, because of the sin element that was introduced,
Mhm.
we're forever working our way back to that original design.
Yes.
And so, and this is what is these type of conversations, the work that you're doing with My Love Circle, the stuff I'm doing with the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network, this podcast, all the work I do as a pastor, teaching, empowering women, coaching women, all of that is about helping us get back to that image that God created.
Yes.
That God, the thing that God had in mind when you were before you were even in your mother's womb.
Yes. Yes.
Because
Yes.
he said, I knew you
Yes.
even before you were in your mother's womb, and I ordained you.
Mm.
Okay, I set you apart.
Mm-hmm.
You are still fearfully, Psalm 139, and wonderfully made in the image of God.
Yes. Yes.
And so we are constantly working our way back
Yes.
into that image.
It's into
And
that.
this is work. That's
It's
why I
what.
say working our way back. So when we come to your workshop, it's called workshop
I love it. Yeah.
for a reason because we're coming to work, not just so you can tell us information or give us no, so I can do the work because only I can do my own inner child work.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So, with that being said, let's talk a little bit about. We have a few more minutes
Okay.
before we wrap up. I have to get them your information. We are talking today to DeAnna Boyd. She is the founder of MiLoves Circle, and you can get to her website here at milovescircle.com. MI loves LOVES. I always spell it for those who are listening and not watching on YouTube. Although I don't know why they're not watching me on YouTube. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, go there right now and subscribe to Dr. Toni G. Alvarado on YouTube so that you can watch this podcast as well as listen. But it's My Loves Circle, MILOVES circle.com. And you can also follow DeAnna on Instagram. She is active there on Instagram at My Love Circle, at My Love Circle. Excuse me. And she can, you can also see her, you can email her to get more information. Go to her website, email her, find out when her next workshop is. DeAnna, tell us about your next workshop.
The next workshop, well, I have the first one that's coming up is going to be 444, which is going to start later this month. It's 4 coaching sessions for 40 minutes for $40 per session. Excited about that. But the
Okay.
flagship program is coming up in October, which is My Love Circle, which we've already talked about. Then I'll have some other programs throughout the year so that I can engage with women and we can build community and just continue to, grow. And I want to thank you before I get off for what you do with self-care. I've been on a couple of your retreats and they have been so amazing and life-changing in certain areas and fun. I'm not a real fun person, but they a lot of
And we're
fun.
getting ready to go to Aruba. I certainly wish you and Felicia could go to Aruba with us.
I
I
know.
know you guys couldn't go this time, but
Right.
hopefully you will be at the 2023
Okay. Yes. Yes.
retreat.
Yeah.
So yes. So I'll harmonize your life. Listen, ladies, DeAnna is also a part. She and her sister Felicia Mcbride, who you've heard from already on the podcast, they are a part of the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network. If you are not a member, join us. We have women from all over the country that are a part of this network. We are professional women, doctors, nurses, accountants, lawyers, medical doctors, psychiatrists, therapists, pastors, teachers, educational professors, college professors, high school teachers, elementary school mothers, single mothers, married, widowed, divorced, whatever, single, all of children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. We have a great time in the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network. When you join, membership has its privileges. We have some really, really good stuff coming down the pipe this year as we move into our second year of the network. This first year, we were just getting it started, getting it going. But we have Tea Time with Dr. Toni once a month. If you're a member of the network, you automatically get added invitation to that. You get the link to come into Zoom with us, and you get to do one-on-one work with us in the Tea Time sessions with Dr. Toni. I bring in speakers. Sometimes I'm the facilitator, and I bring in others to come in and work with us. And you get connected to women like DeAnna in the Self-Care Network. If you are not following, ladies, I want you to know in the month of October, I got another fitness challenge coming up in October. Y'all know Dr. Toni loves to work out. Y'all know I love that. So y'all work out with me in the month of October, October 1st through 31st. We'll be working out together. And so you can go to my website at drtonialvarado.com and get the information there. If you are not subscribe to my YouTube channel, go there and subscribe so that you can help me grow my subscriptions there. But you can also know every time we upload a new episode of the podcast, you'll get notified because you'll subscribe to the channel, and you can watch this podcast as well as listen. You can watch the podcast, you can listen to the podcast at Apple, Google, Spotify. We're also on the Light Internet Radio there, so you can listen, but you can also watch. For those of you like me who like video, you can just listen while you're walking in the park, or you can sit down and behind your computer and watch the podcast. So please join us in the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network, because I know that it will be a blessing in your life. I want you to follow DeAnna Boyd. Let me put her information up one more time. Follow DeAnna Boyd there at MiLoves Circle, at her website, MiLovesCircle.com, on IG at MiLoves Circle. You can email her, DeAnna at MiLovesCircle.com, and she can let you know about her workshops that are coming up, her classes that are coming up. If you need this inner child healing, we all need it, first of all. If you've not done this kind of work, you can get in her workshop and get busy doing the work of healing that inner child. All right. If you want to just do a little bit more understanding your mother's story, your grandmother's story, and the people that you come from, so that it can inform you about where you are and help you as you prepare for your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, so that you can pass on a rich, healthy, holistic legacy as you move forward. We can't do anything about the past, but we can work on the present, change our present, and we can change our trajectory for our future. Again, I thank you, DeAnna. Do you have one last thing you want to say to us as we close out today?
I do want to share this. Anyone that's in your network for Harmonize Your Life, I am offering a workshop for it's about 47% discount, almost 50% off to all.
Also, if you're in the network, they get a discount.
They get a major discount.
Look at that. See, membership has its privileges, y'all. Membership has its privileges. And so, DeAnna, I would definitely send that out to the women in the network.
Okay.
So once you get me that information, the flyer and everything, I'll drop it and let them know that they can get connected to that workshop and be a part of what you're doing there. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Listen, you all, this has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. Thank you for joining us this week. I want you to hang with us all. I don't know why that happened. I wasn't done. Listen, if you're watching this, y'all, this is live. Hang with us all month. I meant to, before y'all got to see my outro, I meant to say goodbye to my guests and to y'all. All right. But listen, hang with us all month. Really, we got some wonderful more guests. We've already heard from Dr. Shauna Lee. Today you heard from DeAnna Boyd. Next week, you will hear from my guest, my friend, my little sister, my younger sister in ministry. She's not a little sister in the sense that, in that sense, but she is a younger sister. She looks up to me. She calls me her big sister in ministry. But you're going to hear from Pastor Shalita Fomby next week, the pastor of New Life Church in Maryland. And then we'll close out the month with Dr. Cassandra Simmons, who does work in forensic psychology. And so clinical forensic psychology. And so listen, we have some sharp women on this podcast. Listen, we don't bring you junk. We bring you the best of the best. All right. So again, we'll see you next week on Harmonize Your Life, Conversations for Self-Care for Women of Color podcast with your host, Dr. Toni G. Alvarado. Hi, this is Dr. Toni Alvarado. I am so delighted about bringing the Harmonize Your Life podcast to you. Would you do me a favor? If you are enjoying this podcast, would you email me at hello@drtonialvarado.com? I want to hear from you. I want your feedback. I want to know if there are any other topics that you are interested in as it relates to wellness, self-care, nutrition, or just overall bringing harmony into your life. Email me, contact me at hello@drtonialvarado.com.